بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. الحمد لله رب العالمين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب إله العالمين بالقاسم محمد. صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تعالى في كتابه المجيد: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ومن يتولى الله والرسوله والذين آمنوا فإن حزب الله هم الغالبون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل. Your second salawat for love of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Muhammad wa ali. And your third to hasten the reappearance of Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Respected elders, brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Our conversation has been around the topic of aqa'id, and we've entered the domain of Imamat. And yesterday we spent some time discussing the importance that Allah has appointed certain individuals to have authority after the Holy Prophet. And we reference the ayah, إِنَّمَا وَلِيُّكُمُ اللَّهُ وَالرَّسُولَهُ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا الَّذِينَ يُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَيَأْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ وَهُمْ رَاكِعُونَ. This next ayah that we are mentioning today is the continuation. That's Surah Ma'idah verse 55. This is Surah Ma'idah verse 56. وَمَنْ يَتَوَلَّى اللَّهُ وَالرَّسُولَهُ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. Whoever takes the wilayah, takes the authority, takes the guardianship of Allah, His Prophet, and those who believe, فَإِنَّ حِزْبُ اللَّهِ, then they have become the party of Allah. وَهُمْ غَالِبُونَ, and they are the ones who are successful. So Allah says, for you to be successful, for you to be a part of my people, you have to take me as your wali, you have to take the Prophet as your wali, and you have to take الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, who we described in the verse previous to this as the ones الَّذِينَ يُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَيَأْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ وَهُمْ رَاكِعُونَ. Yani it's necessary to be considered as part of the party of Allah, that you accept the wilayat and you understand that there are people in authority over you who are the imams. So then the question comes, who is the imam? How do we recognize the imam? If we've come to the conclusion that Allah has put an authority on this earth, and Allah has put someone in charge on this earth after the Prophet, He must then disclose to us the signs and the information for us to understand who are these personalities. What are their characteristics? How can we differentiate them from every other person who is present on the earth? And inshallah tomorrow we'll spend some time and we'll discuss the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. وَمَنْ مَاتَ وَلَمْ يَعْرِفْ إِمَامِ زَمَانِهِ مَاتَ مِيتَةً جَاهِلِيَّةً. And this is a hadith, inshallah tomorrow we'll discuss this as we try to understand the position and status of our Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman. Ajjalallahu ta'ala. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Where our Prophet explained, he says, the one who dies and doesn't know the Imam of his time, it is as if he has died from the time of Jahiliyyah, as if he has no faith, as if he is from amongst those who never even knew that Islam existed. But today, we want to be Hizbullah, the party of Allah. Those Hizbullah in Lebanon are good too, but the other Hizbullah, the bigger Hizbullah, is the more important one that we want to be part of. The one that was the original Hizbullah that they are trying to be part of as well too, inshallah. That Hizbullah, that party of Allah, is the one who takes the wilayat and takes the friendship and takes the authority of الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, and takes the authority of the Prophet and takes the authority of Allah. So we see that we need to have characteristics that identify who are these individuals who have authority over us. Now, what's interesting is when you look at history and you take a look at the signs that are associated with recognizing the Imam, you find that these signs become very, very important during the time of the Banu Abbas. Now, from the time of the passing of the Prophet and the rulership of the Banu Umayyah, what we see happen was that the Banu Umayyah were based out of Sham, and they based their superiority on the concept that they were Quraysh, and they treated the authority of the Muslims as if it was a kingship. They didn't care what the Ahlul Bayt said, who is in authority. They didn't care. They said, we have this authority and it's ours. You can claim whatever you like, but at the end of the time, this is our authority. Now, what happened was that the Banu Abbas are the children of Hazrat Abbas, who was the uncle of the Holy Prophet. And these were the people of the Banu Hashim. After the event of Karbala, these children of Hazrat Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet, raised the flag that said that these people have usurped the right, and we, the Banu Hashim, have greater authority over the leadership and authority of Islam than anyone else. And the Banu Abbas raised black flags, which were their flags to say, we are the mourners of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, and we seek vengeance for the blood of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, and we want to dethrone the Banu Umayyah who caused the bloodshed of the Ahlul Bayt, who caused our bloodshed, the bloodshed of the Banu Hashim. So under this principle, the Banu Abbas claimed to the people, they said, we are the Banu Hashim. We have greater authority over all of you because we are from the family of the Prophet. So we have the right to have the Khilafat. Now, when they made this claim, there's only one group of people who have greater authority than them, who are the children of Abu Talib, who are the children of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Salla ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Because not only were the children of Imam Ali the Banu Hashim, but they were also the grandchildren of the Holy Prophet. So the Banu Abbas, when they raised their claim, we are the Banu Hashim, we are closer to the Prophet, the Ahlul Bayt were closer than them. So the Banu Abbas didn't want the people to know about the characteristics, the personality, the status of the Ahlul Bayt, because that would steal the authority they had just stolen. Because people would say, wait a minute, if we are electing you to be in power because you are from the Banu Hashim, these people are from the children of the Prophet, they should have authority, not you. So we see that while the Banu Abbas used the claim of Imam Hussain alayhi salam to take authority from the Banu Umayyah, they then spend their process in authority doing even more dhulm on the Ahlul Bayt, doing even more injustice upon the children of the Holy Prophet, because they had to hide the characteristics of the Ahlul Bayt so that people would not follow them. So whereas prior to the start of the Khilafat of the Banu Abbas, when an Imam, his life was going on, he would clearly appoint and say, this is the Imam after me. This is the next one who will be the Imam. As soon as the Banu Abbas come into authority, they want to wipe out the position of Imamat entirely. Now the Imam can't go out in public and announce, this is my child, this is the Imam after you. This is the next one who will be in authority after me. This is the one who has the right of Imamat. So rather than going out and publicly announcing who is the Imam, we see that with the start of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam, the Imams begin to teach us the signs of how to recognize an Imam, so that we as the Shia can understand who is the Imam, and other people will not be attracted or be aware of the Imam. Because if the public becomes known, if the Banu Abbas know who is the Imam, they will kill the Imam. So the Imamat then becomes a signature amongst the people that they recognize the Imam through their signs. They recognize the Imam through their unique characteristics that are present only in an Imam. So in this regard, I've highlighted for us 10 characteristics of recognizing an Imam and explaining through the narrations of the Ahlul Bayt how these characteristics became visible so that we can know who is an Imam. And with this, we'll start with the first one if you recite a wonderful salawat. The first sign of an Imam is that an Imam is born clean and born pure. There are narrations that tell us that an Imam in the womb, he recites Quran, where the mother of the Imam says, I hear this child of mine before his birth reciting the Quran to me. I see that when my child is born, he is completely clean, he has no need for circumcision, he is not impure, there is no blood on him. And when he enters this world and goes directly into sajda and recites, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa And this is a unique characteristic that is present in all of the Imams. If we take a look at the birth history of any of the Imams, we see that their mothers and their nurses all indicate that this child was unique. Upon his birth, he performed this action. Whether we talk about Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, Imam Hassan alayhi salam, Imam Hussain alayhi salam, ila akhir, where we see that the aunt of our 11th Imam who narrates to us the birth of our 12th Imam, she exclaims in the same way that as soon as this child was born, I saw him going to sajda. I heard when it was time for this child, our 12th Imam, to be born, he was reciting the Quran and I could hear the Quran from the womb. So this is the first characteristic that is present in all of the Imams, that they are known that when they are born pure and they are born reciting the Quran and taking the shahadat of Allah and His Holy Prophet. The second is that an Imam, his sign is that he has complete knowledge of everything. And he has complete knowledge of the Quran as well. One of the gifts and one of the presents, one of the tabarrukat that is present in the hand of every Imam is the Quran that was compiled by Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. This Quran we see when we take a look at history, and we see that during the time of the first Khalifa, it was said that Imam Ali wouldn't leave his house until he finished compiling the Quran. Some people have a misgiving that says that this Quran was the Quran that we have now. However, we know that this is incorrect because it's not possible for the Holy Prophet to have left the world without compiling the Quran. And the proofs that we see in that is that various verses of the Quran were revealed at different points. Not every surah was revealed in one complete surah. Some verses were revealed at particular times, other verses were revealed at particular times. The reason we know which verses, which ayat are part of which surah is because Rasulullah explained it. And Allah says, نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الذِّكْرَ وَنَحْنُ لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. We sent down the Quran. Allah says, I sent down the Quran and I am its protector. So meaning the Quran was, when it was revealed revealed and structured by the Prophet in the format that we have it today. So then the question arises, what was the Quran that Amir al-Mu'mineen was compiling? Amir al-Mu'mineen was compiling the Quran in the way that the Holy Prophet had explained it to him. Imam Ali said that no verse came down in the Quran except that the Holy Prophet explained to me its ta'wil, its tafsir, its explanation, it's detailed in every piece of information. And Amir al-Mu'mineen compiled all of that information because in the Quran is included information of the past, the present, and all of the ahkam of Allah. To the extent where Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, when he explains to one of his companions how comprehensive the compilation of the Quran of Amir al-Mu'mineen was, he says, "Oh my companion, do you give me permission?" He says, "Yabna Rasulullah, you have any permission?" The Imam reaches up to him and pinches him slightly on his arm. And he says, even the fine for causing this much of pain to a human being is included in the Quran that was revealed that Amir al-Mu'mineen has given to us. And every Imam who comes has possession of this Quran, which has every verse, all of the mutashabiha and all of the wadih verses, all of the clear verses explained in thorough detail, and every meaning and interpretation of all of the knowledge of the Quran is included in it and is present with our current Imam. And this is one of the signs that they have knowledge of all of this information. Along with this, we see that the Imams have knowledge of every science that exists in the earth. Because if a person is to be an Imam, he must have knowledge of everything that is in the earth because he is the authority over everything that is in the earth. There can be no one who has more knowledge than him or better knowledge than him. Because if someone is more knowledgeable than him, then how can he be the authority? How can the Imam be the authority if someone has more knowledge than him? So when we look at this, we see that Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam, who instituted and established the system of curriculum education of Islam, used to teach between 5 and 7 subjects that were well known. Where Western historians note this as well too. Then when we see the time of his son Imam as-Sadiq, who established the structure of education and teaching and learning within the Islamic empire, which is the reason why we are known as Madhhab Ja'fari, he used to teach 17 subjects. These subjects included chemistry, physics, biology, botany, mathematics, as well as ulum al-Quran. Were Western historians right? They say we saw that the father of Ja'far as-Sadiq used to teach some subjects, but we don't understand where he had the knowledge to teach some of these other subjects, because we don't know who his teacher was in these matters. And this we know is one of the signs of Imamat, that an Imam has perfect knowledge of all things that exist in the earth. And he is the teacher of all knowledge. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now, as we get into this, there's something I wanted to mention before we started, but as we've gotten into 2 of these, there are another 8 to go, so it's still valid that we mention this point. I want to share with you a hadith and the explanation before we talk more about the signs of Imamat. In this hadith, we see that one of the companions of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Salla ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, says, I spent some days sitting with the Imam, and I would see as people would come and ask him questions. I noticed that on one day, a man came and asked him, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, how do I keep my concentration? How do I increase my focus in prayers? It's a very valid question. It's a very important question for us as well too. The Imam says to him, he says, focus on the place of your sajda. Focus on the place of your sajda and be constantly aware and present that you are paying attention on where you do your sujood. Person said, thank you, and left. He says, the next day that I was sitting with the Imam, I saw someone else come to the Imam and ask him the same question. Ya Ibn Rasulullah, how do I keep my concentration and focus in prayers? He says at this time the Imam replied to this questioner. He said to him, he said, pray in such a way that it is the last prayer that you are saying on this earth. That this is the last prayer you will get to say, and that you want to put all of your focus and intention into this one prayer. Person said, thank you very much, Ya Imam, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, and left. Now the third day, he says, I saw another person come and ask the same question. Ya Ibn Rasulullah, how do I keep my attention in prayer? And the Imam said to this person, he said to him, pray in such a way that it is as if you can see Allah. But recognize that you don't have the ability to see Allah, but He is watching you and watching your every motion and moment. The person said, thank you very much, got up and left. Now the narrator, he says, after this I turned to the Imam and I said to him, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, they all asked you the same question. Why did you give them a different answer? The Imam says, when I answer a question, I judge the scale of the individual on what he has the capability to understand. And I answer his question in the format through which he is best able to understand what it is that he needs to accomplish. Yani for us, when we talk about a subject, we may all have different scales of understanding. There may be a level to which we can understand and comprehend, and after that level, it may be something that we have not yet developed the ability to understand. When it comes to the characteristics of the Ahlul Bayt and the Imams alayhimus salam, their characteristics are such that they are above and beyond anything we have the ability to comprehend. It may happen that we discuss an issue, or that you read an issue about an Imam and you begin to question, is it legitimately possible that the Imam has this ability? Na'udzu billah. It can happen that it comes that the characteristic we talk about is something so phenomenal and beyond comprehension to us that we may doubt that can anyone have this ability. But rather than for us to question whether this characteristic is present in the Imam, we should recognize that it is a possibility we have not attained that level of understanding to appreciate that this is a true characteristic of the Imam. My point in saying this is that when you read about the fadail of the Ahlul Bayt, when you read about the characteristics of the Imams, you may see within them certain things that don't agree with your intellect. Rather than say that this characteristic, which is, if it's narrated from an authentic source, is lying, or it's not possible for the Imam to have this characteristic, it is better for us to recognize, I don't have the ability to appreciate or understand what this characteristic is describing to me. And leave it alone. And remain within those characteristics that we have the comprehension to understand. The same way, when we want to introduce the concept of imamat to someone who does not believe in imamat, we do not begin by talking about the most awesome and awe-inspiring characteristics of the imam. We begin with the most basic responsibilities so that a person isn't overwhelmed or he doesn't have the ability to understand what these characteristics are, just immediately says, no, this can't be true, this can't be possible. Same way. So for us, when we sit with someone and we want to introduce them, what is the responsibility of an imam? And we begin and we discuss with them that an imam, the second he is born, he is reciting Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. A person who doesn't know what is the complete vision of an imam could say that that's not possible. We've seen thousands of infants be born. How is it possible that one infant who you are saying is the imam can do this action? And it's not an important action for them to have yaqeen in. Rather, it's more important them to have yaqeen that this person has knowledge of the Quran and Hadith and the actions of the Holy Prophet, and he can teach us those actions. So we should present those aspects which are most necessary and most basic for the characteristics of an imam when we want to introduce the concept of imamat to someone. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali. And in the same way, if we mention some characteristics of the signs of knowing the imam that become too difficult for someone to understand, recognize that these are characteristics to appreciate the quality of an imam, though they may not necessarily relate to you in your day-to-day life. They may not be the ones that are required for you to have yaqeen and certainty that this is the imam. Now on this, we say the next characteristic of the imam is that he has knowledge of all the things that will happen in the future and all of the things that will happen in the past. This knowledge is given to the imam through the book that is known as Mushaf Fatima, the book of Fatima. When someone asked Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam, Ma salli ala Muhammad wa remember at the beginning I mentioned that most of these ahadith will refer back to Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq and after him, because at that point it was necessary to teach the people what signs they should look for in an imam so that the imam would be protected from the Caliphate and wouldn't be attacked by the Caliphate. So we see that when someone asks the imam tells them, we are the possessors of Mushaf Fatima. Someone says, what is Mushaf Fatima? The imam explains that after the passing away of the Holy Prophet, that Sayyidah Zahra salamullahi alayhi was very begrieved. She was very sad. So Allah sent Jibreel to dictate to her a book. And in this book is included all of the information of the past and all of the information of the future. The characteristic of this book is that it is 3 times the size of the Holy Quran and includes no information from the Quran, only of the events that have happened and only the events that will happen. And we have knowledge of all of these events, and we have this book within our possession, that we know of all the characteristics and things that will befall in our time, before our time and after our time. And when we take a look, we see various ahadith that show that, for example, when some of the companions would leave the imam and they would be traveling, so in some instances when they would visit Imam al-Kadhim when he was in the city of Medina, before he was taken to prison, when they leave and they head back to Iraq, they see that a letter on their way to Iraq is given to them from the imam. When they open the letter, they see that the imam has given them information about what will happen in their towns when they go back to their town. And the imam explains to them that this and this difficulties will befall the mu'mineen, this is how you should behave and how you should handle these difficulties. So it was a demonstration to show the imam's knowledge of what will come and what will happen. The next aspect of recognizing an imam is that an imam has knowledge of the unseen. This aspect of imamat is very important, that was used to determine the imam of the time, even during the time of Sahib al-Asr wa zaman. Our 11th imam had a brother who was known as Ja'far. Ja'far, who we knew and we began to call Ja'far al-Kadhab. Because after the death of the 11th imam, it was unclear who is the 12th imam and where is the 12th imam. Because the imam, Allah had taken into hiding away from the enemies of Islam. When this happened, the brother of the 11th imam came forward and said, I am the imam. I am the imam. And the mu'mineen, not having any other way to know who is the imam, they went to him and they tested him. Now what would happen up until the time of the 11th imam, when one of the representatives of the imam would come from far off lands, he would bring the khums or the gifts from the people to the Imam. And when he would bring the khums to the Imam, the people would send the khums in a pouch. And that pouch would be sewed up from all four sides with the money inside of it. And on the inside of a pouch would a tag be sewn. And on that tag would be written the name of the person who sent the khums. Whenever an Imam received these pouches, the first thing that he would do is he would tell the person, this pouch is from this and this person. Within it is included this and this kind of money in this and this quantity. For example, there are 8 pieces of gold, 4 pieces of silver. One of the pieces of gold has the markings of the Romans on it. Another piece of gold has the marking of the Muslims on it. Another one has the mark of Persia on it. And he would explain to them what is in the bag and what is the money that is halal that the Imam will accept, and what is the money that is earned from an incorrect means that should be returned to the one who is the sender. Now before we continue, the lesson in this is that 1, we do have the responsibility of khums. 2, that we have the responsibility that our earnings should be halal. Because if we have unjust earnings or we have earned money through non-halal means, we can't even pay khums out of it because the Imam will not accept it from us. That doesn't mean don't pay your khums, that means that you have a liability on you. So when Ja'far al-Kadhab stepped in and said, I am the Imam, said, okay, maybe you are the Imam, we don't know, here's the khums. So Ja'far said, okay, thank you very much, and went to go put it in his pocket. They said, wait, who is it from? Ja'far says, there's no mark on it, how can I tell you? He says, no, every Imam tells us who this is from. Tell me who this is from. He says, how are you asking me to know the unseen? How can I know the unseen when there's no marking on this? The people, the mu'mineen, immediately realized that this is not the Imam of the time. They took back their khums and they waited for the true Imam to show his signs amongst the people. So in this way they found out and they determined and they knew that an Imam has knowledge of the unseen. He doesn't need to see the tag to know what is in the pouch. He knows what's in the pouch before he sees the tag. And he explains and he teaches what's in there. And he educates the people to say, have no doubt, I the Imam have the authority to know the unseen. And I will show you that I am the Imam by showing you the unseen. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The next characteristic and the next way of determining an Imam is that he has the tabarrukat of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. भाई मजमा जब इतना हो जाए और उसमें से ऐसी सलावात आए तो फिर बंदा बड़ा उदास होता है. सलावात अला मुहम्मद मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद. One of the signs of an Imam is that he possesses the armor of Rasulullah. The armor of Rasulullah was under debt at the time of the death of the Prophet to a Jewish man for 4 dirhams. And Amir al-Mu'mineen paid off that debt and freed that armor and took possession of the armor of the Holy Prophet. The sign of the Imam was taught to us in the case of Imam Musa ibn Ja'far al-Kadhim alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali. Because the father of Imam Musa, Imam Ja'far, couldn't publicly announce to all of the people who the Imam after him was, for fear that Harun would kill the next Imam. Alaykum as-salam. The Imam, when the mu'mineen would come and ask, who is the Imam after you, Ya Imam as-Sadiq? The Imam would say, Musa ibn Ja'far has put on the armor and it has fit him. And they would say, that is enough for me, I don't have any questions. Because one of the unique characteristics of the Imam is that not only does he possess the armor of the Holy Prophet, but it fits him as if it was made for him. So the Imam who possesses the armor, he wears the armor as if it was made for him and it was his armor. And this is a unique characteristic of the Imam. Along with this, the Imam is in possession of the flag of Rasulullah that he used to take into battle. He is also in possession of Dhul Fiqar, the sword of the Holy Prophet, and the sword of Amir al-Mu'mineen. So in this way, when we want to know the Imam, we can see the riwayat that explain and say to us that Imam Musa ibn Ja'far is the one who possessed the armor, he wore it and it fit him. The same way when Sahib al-Asr was Zaman, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajushan. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. When it is time for the Imam to come, there will be many people who will call and they will be false callers. They will be liars. And the way we have the ability to recognize them is through these signs. Amongst the signs that does this person possess the armor of the Holy Prophet? Does this person wear it the way the Holy Prophet would wear it? And this is one of the unique attributes of our Imam. The next is that the Imam possesses the inheritance of all of the Anbiya. Included in this is the staff of Nabi Musa. Included in this is the tablets of Nabi Musa. Included in this is the shirt of Nabi Ibrahim. So someone asks, what is the shirt of Nabi Ibrahim? The shirt of Nabi Ibrahim was given to Nabi Ibrahim by Allah when Nimrod wanted to throw Nabi Ibrahim into the fire. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, salawat ala Muhammad, salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He explains, he says that the shirt of Nabi Ibrahim is such that it is not affected by heat or by cold. When he was thrown into the fire, because of the shirt, the fire did not affect him, nor would cold affect him. And this shirt of Nabi Ibrahim was given to Nabi Ismail, was given all the way down to Nabi Yaqub, who gave it to Nabi Yusuf. And it was Nabi Yusuf who possessed this shirt when his brothers pretended to kill him. And this was the shirt that when Nabi Yaqub saw it, he says, it reminds me of the smell of Yusuf. So someone asked the Imam, where is this shirt now? The Imam says, we are the possessors of all of the tabarruqat, of all of the gifts of the Anbiya, and we keep them with us, and we have them with us, and it is a demonstration of our authority on the earth that we have all of the gifts that were given to the Anbiya. We're running out of time, but inshallah, let's recite a loud salawat and read two more, and then inshallah we'll finish our today's discussion. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. An Imam has the ability to speak and communicate with all of creation. Everything that is created, whether it is jinn, whether it is human being, or whether it is an animal, has the Imam can communicate with. Imam Musa ibn Ja'far used to demonstrate this authority that when people came and asked him about his Imamat, he would say, sit and watch and I will show you. And when an Arab is sitting with the Imam, he is watching that a Persian comes and starts to question the Imam, and the Persian speaks to him in Arabic. Imam replies to him in Persian. And the Persian says, I did not imagine that you could speak my language. How is it that you can speak my language? He says, how could I be your Imam if I couldn't communicate to you in your own language? We see that when they wanted to martyr our seventh Imam in prison, when they wanted to martyr Imam Musa ibn Ja'far in prison, they called in assassins from a foreign land who spoke no language. They said, if Musa ibn Ja'far speaks with this person, he stops them from having the ability to kill him. So we'll call someone he can't communicate with, and then they will kill him. When they came and they checked on the cell, they saw that the assassins were sitting there in front of Imam, and Imam was speaking to them in their own tongue, and they said, how is it possible that this Musa ibn Ja'far speaks to all of creation in their own language? We see in one instance where one of the companions is traveling with our seventh Imam, and he says that I saw as I was traveling with my Imam, a lion came to him. When this lion came to him, I became scared. But I saw that my Imam, what he did was he removed his foot from the saddle, and the lion came and put his foot on the place of the Imam's saddle. As soon as the lion put his foot there, my Imam put his foot on top of the foot of the lion, and the lion kissed the foot of my Imam. Then I saw that the lion was in some way communicating with the Imam, and the Imam was replying to him in a language that the lion understood. Then after a while, I saw that my Imam raised his hand and said, Ameen. Then the lion left. So he says, I went to Imam Musa ibn Ja'far and I asked him, this is something that has frightened me. What has taken place just now? The Imam says that this lion came to me and he said that my wife is in the process of labor and she has been in the process of labor for 24 hours. I fear that my child will not be born or my wife will die. My lioness will die. So he came asking me to pray for him. So I made dua for him and gave him good news that his wife will give birth to a male lion. And I told him not to fear, that inshallah by my dua they will be safe. In reply to my mercy of making dua for this lion, the lion in turn made dua to Allah. He said, oh Allah, may the Shia of these Imams never ever be attacked by wild animals. Oh Allah, by my dua, guarantee that the Shia of the Ahlul Bayt will never be attacked by wild beasts. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And Imam al-Kadhim replies, in reply to this dua of the lion, I said, Ameen. And by the right of my Ameen, our Shia will never be attacked by wild beasts. In this way, we see that there are many other characteristics that inshallah will continue tomorrow that give us the recognition and understanding of who is an Imam and how to communicate with an Imam and recognize the Imam, so that inshallah, by the right of this month and this day, we have the ability to recognize Sahibul Asr wal Zaman. Let's end our session with the recitation of Dua Faraj. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma kunni waliyaka al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan. Salawatuka alayhi wa ala abaihi. في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. رحم الله من يقرأ سورة الفاتحة مع الصلوات على محمد وآل محمد.